I'll bring you that now.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Any other, if there was, Kathy, did you have
Well, are we into announcements?
Yeah.
Right, okay. So I have a bunch of announcements, actually. First off, during our exhibit, which is in the main hall, back in the children's section, I have an exhibit called Imagination for Generations. And I'm gonna have 3 of my mom's oil paintings, and then a few of mine, and then each of my 9 kids did something, and then my 4 grandkids. So, and this is at Art Space, and 6 of the kids will be there, and all the grandkids will be there in that tiny room with my husband and I. So it should be really fun.
And you'll be there tonight at
Well, yeah, 5:30 to 7:30. Also, Ted Nuttall is teaching a workshop on still life, September 8th to the 13th in Spruce Pine. And I will have that information on the website. Also, he's doing portraits there, September 15th to the 20th.
Business meeting, just finishing up here.
He's very impressive with his portraits and things, but there's just lovely color all over. Yes, there is. I will get the information on the minutes. Also, Wilkes Art Gallery just informed me of the grant artists in Wilkes, Watauga, Ashe, and Allegheny counties. It's for artists 18 years and older who are not currently enrolled in school or any degree or certificate program. And it's intended to pay for supplies, travel, and needed expenses, training, and more. So I have the website for that. That will be on the minutes. Okay. So, that's it. Where is Spruce Pine? Spruce Pine is in the mountains, I know. It's towards Asheville.
Yeah, west.
Oh,
It's about an hour from here.
yeah.
45 minutes. And if you get there,
Yeah.
Is it everywhere?
What's the name of the location?
Yeah, do you know where the,
I just got this yesterday, so I did not look up all
But
the
it'll be on the
information, but it
website.
will be on our
Website.
minutes.
Good.
Thank you.
Did everybody get
And
our
I'll try to
artist
send the
tips?
minutes out. Everybody has the Pat Collins artist tip.
I was going.
Any more announcements? Okay, great. Thank you. Ready? Ready? Set, go.
Okay.
All right.
Dan, we're up.
Woohoo!
So, Dan Nelson comes from Raleigh, and he and his wife were fortunate to have friends up here so they could spend the night up here a couple of nights. But we are really happy to have him. As I was looking at Dan's website, how many of you looked at the website? Raise your hand if you looked at it. Okay.
Woohoo.
Good. Well, a lot of you
Good.
already read it. I thought I would just read a little snapshot of what I could
How embarrassing.
say it, but I think I'll read it anyways. So Dan made his living for decades as a freelance illustrator, winning competitions in everywhere from street painting to sand sculpture. At the same time, he began mesmerizing audiences by producing 8 by 10 foot masterpieces in streets and parks of Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, his hometown. Sometimes besides setting up his plein air easel everywhere in California to Western Europe, Dan spends much of his time doing live art performances in cities, large and small, painting at festivals, concerts, fundraisers. He has painted for the North Carolina Symphony, the Carolina Hurricanes, IBM, Blacksco.
Blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah. But all that to say, no, this is important because he's not just your typical artist. He's a performing artist, right? Yeah. And I think that, well, I don't know that we've
An
ever
art-
had performing arts, but we have followed, I followed this because my son is very And during some music events, they sometimes have artists that are performing during the music. And I think that it's just fascinating to have this kind of thing. He's also known that he can paint with 2 hands. at one
Yeah, that's right. Although, yep.
So he can paint with 2 hands at one time. He also does lots of YouTube videos, so we can go back and study his work that he's done in the past. He did a YouTube of what he's doing today that we got to look at to decide what we wanted him to do for us. And we chose this particular technique with the watercolor pencils because we were all pretty excited about his demonstration.
Yeah, so just real quickly, for what it's worth, yes, I would love for you to go to my YouTube channel. If you can remember my name, Dan Nelson, look it up on the program because you'll forget it. Dan Nelson Art, remember that I'm an artist. Go to YouTube and look for Dan Nelson Art, and you'll find me. I broadcast an average of 5 days a week. In other words, almost every day. Most of it is oil painting because that's what I do with most of my time. But, and if it's all right with you, what this is, I'm broadcasting this right now. So if any of you are in the FBI Witness Protection Program, just don't say anything. Hi, my name's Joe. I used to live in New York. So just keep it under your hat. Is that all right? Now the main benefit of this is actually to you, because if you'd like, you can go home then and watch this same demo 2 or 3 or 15 times. Lord help you.
Until we get it.
But yeah, till you get it. So is that all right? Okay. All right. So and that's just a picture of what my my channel looks like there. Thank you. I love this gizmo. Woohoo! A man with a remote control. Just when you thought it was safe to come back. To the
That's the only one made.
Is it really? Really? Oh my goodness. All right. Am I done? Was that the end of my introduction?
Can you please tell us what it is that you're doing?
Yes. I would be glad to tell you what I'm doing. I was funny. I was talking to some of these ladies up here. I rarely, lay out all my watercolor stuff in one place. And it reminded me of that old adage, he who dies with the most art supplies wins. And you're on. My goodness, I have a lot of junk. So I'm not going to try to, of course, cover all this. And I've been wandering around here. And of course, I see that Uncle Joe, of course, we all know, does watercolors. And how many of you, let me ask this. Anybody here that doesn't do watercolor? One brave soul in the back. Did you just bring somebody to this meeting or did you come on purpose? Good to have you. So I am delighted to be here. Thank you very much. I do enjoy teaching and the performance part that Carol was talking about is just a screw loose. I am very glad I lived this long in life. I feel like I've finally arrived at what I'm really supposed to do. I was describing myself to an old friend several months ago, and sometimes things fly out of your mouth. You go, ha ha, that's true. I said, if you put me in a room painting, my joy meter is pretty high. But if you put me in a room painting with an audience, my joy meter is... So and I'm an introvert. I don't know how to explain that one bit. I don't even know. I love being here. So I don't even know how to explain that. But anyway, good to be here. Just a little bit. Thank you for looking at my website. Most of my life these days is spent doing oil painting, but I love, for me, going back and doing watercolor. I was a watercolor major in college 150 years ago, but they didn't really teach you anything. They just tried to teach you to express yourself. It took me decades to recover from a college education. And I worked, as Carol read, for many years as a freelance illustrator, which means the phone rings, you answer it, the ad agency or whatever says, can you do this or that or thus and so? And I needed the money. So the answer was always yes, no matter what they said. Can you do etching? Oh, yeah. Can you do airbrush? Sure. I'll learn by tomorrow. So I did all kinds of mediums, but really probably more watercolor than anything else. But that ended 20 years ago. And for the last 15 years, I've been mostly an oil painter. So for me, going back to watercolor is like, woohoo, coming home. And it's frankly what I do for fun. So I'm really looking forward to this class because this is what I do for fun. And I'll forget to say this, so let me do it right now when it pops to mind. Oh, wouldn't you know, I just accidentally brought some artwork that's for sale. And it's marked really high. We jacked it all up for you guys because we know people live in the mountains are rich. So these little ones up here are $25 each. The medium ones are 50. There's a row back there of fruit and vegetables, and I'm saying $40 each, or 3 for $100. I think there's a little sign. You don't have to remember that. And then some $75 ones. Okay, so like I said, high dollar stuff. I'm not in any galleries right now. So speaking of which, I have been as many as 8 galleries across the state. A number of things happened. January, I pulled out of any. So it really gives me great pleasure to sell artwork for whatever the heck I want to sell it for, and I'm not undercutting any gallery. They can't say, you can't do that, because I'm all by myself. So anyway, just in case, I'm not so ego whatever centric that I think you absolutely has to have one of my pieces. But if you want to take a look, and if you like one, if you like what I do, then you could take it home, because of course it's instructive as well. All right, let's talk about a demo. I make no pretense of being a real, even though I was a watercolor major and did it as an illustrator. I didn't go to the American Watercolor Society, but when I do, like you, I just drool all the way all the way across. I look at real watercolor paintings and just shake my head. And so just to help my flagging ego, I brought 2 real just 2 authentic watercolor pieces. Okay, one that's quite realistic and one that's okay. This was actually just a study. I need to study trees, so I went out and did that. So I brought those just again for my flagging ego to show you that, oh yeah, he can do real watercolor if he wants to. But that's not what we're doing today. We are doing watercolor for dummies. Yay! We're doing watercolor for, not you, me, stupid people. Because what's hard about watercolor? Oh, doggone, you have to plan ahead, right? You have to work it all out. You have to save those white areas. Well, what I call watercolor sketch, all that's out the window. Woohoo! You don't have to plan ahead. You don't have to save any whites, because we are going to use opaque white wherever we want to. We cannot get into Watercolor Society of America with this stuff. You understand that, right? Or even, I can't probably get into your organization with this stuff, but that's what we're going to do. I don't know when I made this up, and I honestly can't remember. I know I did a demo of this for Jerry's Artorama about 10 years ago. That's all I remember. It's like, so 10 years ago I was doing this, so somewhere along the line. And as you've heard, we start out with watercolor pencils, and then do watercolor and or ink. We'll talk about all that. I give myself permission to pull out all the watercolor tricks. I have my salt here. I have my, my C brush. I have my, oh, thank God that somebody invented this, right? The Mr. Clean Magic Eraser. And by the way, have you guys had David Stickle up here yet? Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb, just for what it's worth. David Stickle is the best watercolorist in North Carolina, and he's a really good friend of mine. And if you want, I'll put in a good word for you to him and say he needs to come up here. He's the nicest. He is now, of course, who's really the best? But when you see his work, you'll go, oh, yeah, I can't think of anybody right offhand. And he's just the nicest. He's one of those guys. He makes me sick. He's so nice. Whenever I hang around him, I feel like I have a few rough edges. He has no rough edges. He's just nice. And he's 6'7", by the way. So you can't. Pardon?
Has he written, produced a book?
He's been in, I think, 7 editions of Splash.
Wow.
And he's on his way to Moscow right now for some international thing that he won. He's always winning competitions. He makes me sick. David, if you're listening,
Reflections in glass.
yes, right.
As Brown right now with the American Watercolor Society, and he won last year in West Jefferson for the North Carolina Watercolor Society.
So there you go. Well, he's officially the best one in North Carolina. Anyway, I can't.
He's always in the painting somewhere.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, he does reflections.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
The reason it came up is he's what he showed me really how to use this thing, and I've heard that you can use it. And one of the tricks that he does that we probably won't do today is he'll mask off part, if he needs to use this with good masking tape like this, he'll mask off part of his painting, real carefully, and then rub to lift out whatever was in there. And it's like, maybe you guys all know that. You do? Yeah, okay, so I was late to the party. Okay. I think everything else will just touch as it comes to, no, real quickly, I may not get to this, so again, tricks, you guys are all watercolors, probably way better than I am, but here's my watercolor masking stuff, and are you all familiar with these? Okay, good. And maybe that's the only thing that is.
I'm not.
Okay, okay. This is, and I got it online, I think, and forgive me, please, Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe. I live in Uncle Jerry, Jerry's Artoramaville, and I've worked with Jerry's a lot. So forgive me. I'm gonna. These were available at Jerry's. I think they still are. I'm not. Are they here? Okay, good. So now these are great because you can put paint in them, or this is a mask, a liquid mask, either one. So that's just really sweet that you can take a mask and do really skinny lines like that. That's really fun. And here's a new product, new to me, probably not to you, Lift Aid. Everybody here familiar with Lift Aid? You and I haven't used it yet, but I have 2 bottles of it. I'm going to use it. You, by the way, this is the kind of stuff you get at Art of the Carolinas. Do y'all, any of y'all go to Art of the Carolinas? Okay, commercial time, just for fun. Even if you don't take any classes, and they're kind of expensive, but please come to one of mine. The manufacturers are there from all over the world showing off their latest, greatest. It's worth it just for that. It really is worth it. Come to Raleigh the second weekend in November, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at North Raleigh Hilton. And that's where I picked this up. This is a Lift Aid. So before you start your watercolor painting, you paint the whole sheet of paper with this, and it makes lifting easier. Now, that sounds like a good idea, doesn't it? Forgive me, I haven't used it yet, but I will. It's sitting there waiting for me, and I'm like a kid in a candy store. It's like, woo, I can't wait to try that. Let me clean up this mess. Yes?
Is the masking already in there, or is that a box that you can then use?
Both. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, I think you can buy it with the masking in it. Is that right?
Yeah. It's called a masking pen, but they also
That's
have
right.
empty bottles.
That's right. And I've gotten and like everything in watercolor, you know, it dies. It has a certain shelf life, but it's really well made. I haven't opened this, I'm sure, in 6 months, and got it out this morning. It worked just fine. So for what it's worth. Yeah, it's got a wire that goes down through the metal opening. Yeah. So that's good. All right. So here let's pick a picture, and I'm going to let you guys help me decide which drawing to do. Okay. So I'm just going to run through some real quickly. This is a happy porch full of people in Beaufort, North Carolina. Happy memory for me. This is a boat in Beaufort, North Carolina. This is. Oh, that's right. One of the videos that you will see on
Easy to get to. It's
YouTube.
right there on our webpage under his name.
Oh, okay. Excellent. This was just cute. This is a 8-year-old girl standing on a toilet so she can see herself in the mirror, primping it. That is just so cute. And I don't do a lot of figurative stuff, therefore I love to do figurative stuff. Does that make sense? This is 4 copies of the same thing. A street scene in Paris. I have done a large oil painting of this. This, if we chose to do this, this would have to be the magic of abstraction, right? How to reduce. By the way, I have Carol till when? This goes till this. Okay, so an hour and 15 minutes. So that's significant. This is a porch in Charleston. Looks like Charleston, doesn't it? And I've done a couple oil paintings of that, but never a watercolor. Now this is one that's been haunting me for years. This happens to be in Little Washington, North Carolina. I was in a gallery there. I've done scores of painting in Little Washington and have taken hundreds of photographs. So as I was walking around one rainy day, just stumbled on this and clicked the picture. That one calls to me. here's another. This is a this one. It's a shed in Beaufort. This is a farm near where I live. All right, that's good. I love it. we'll go with that one. And by the way, for the work, how many of you are staying for the workshop this afternoon? Oh, good. 3 or 4 of you. Good. I did not bring photos for you. No. I'm sorry. I did not bring the same photo for all of us to work from. I brought 150 pictures that you can go through. You can use your own or you can use one of mine. Is that all right? So it'll make the workshop a little looser, but I think with 3 hours, simple technique, I think we'll be okay. Does that make sense? So if you're here for the workshop, I'll take all these pictures and let's put them out on a big table somewhere and let you guys just rifle through them and find one that you like, or use one of your own. And of course, you can also use one that's on your phone. Have you learned that? You have pictures on your phone? Okay, good. All right, so that was cute. So this is the one we're doing. Let's get started. I just damaged my watercolor paper there already, and let me make sure that I'm actually have the whole thing on. And you yell, please, if I start getting off camera, you yell. All right. So here's the technique that I stumbled upon. I start out by drawing with a very light color. Now, I just took a bunch of my watercolor pencils here, and just a little while ago divided them by dark, light, medium, and dark. Now the most common thing for me, of course, is yellow because it's so light. By the way, this is one of those art gizmos that are worth buying. You ever see these in the store? Okay, it's a short pencil holder. So here's a worthless pencil, but it's the only pink watercolor pencil I have left. But look, now it's actually completely usable. So I'm assuming Joe carries them? He does. Yeah. But there's so many things in an art store, right? I mean, you walk, oh yeah, who needs one of those? And then sometimes you buy them and go, ooh, how'd I live without that so many years? Okay, so I'm just going to be simple. I'm going to start with a warm yellow, and oh, you know what? Just a second. I didn't. Let me make an adjustment here real quick. I have a little stand that will hold this up for me, I think. I just need a piece of stiff paper behind that. All right. Oh, good. That's much better.
The image is not in view.
Yeah, and I don't. Well, I could zoom out. Oh yeah. Let's do that. Let's do that. So you can see what I'm doing. You won't be able to see my drawing quite as well. I'll do the same thing up here. All right. So where do I begin? Yellow. Why yellow? Because it's light. That's the only factor. And I'm just going to real quickly indicate the largest marks on this scene. By the way, this is a shed in Beaufort, North Carolina. Likewise, I was in an art gallery in Beaufort and in Morehead City. So my wife and I have taken many trips to Beaufort to paint and just love the town, love the people. Lots of fun. Please notice how carefully I'm drawing. Some of you might notice how I'm holding the pencil. Okay, now many of you have heard that you're supposed to hold your pencil this way. Maybe you've never heard why. Let me take a quick detour. When you hold a pencil with this grip, look what part of my anatomy is doing the work. My fingers. This is the same grip most of you use when you're writing words and letters. Therefore, when you hold a drawing utensil in this manner, you're tapping into the control freak center of your brain. Because when you were first, second, third, fourth grade, your teachers and parents were beating you bloody to make you write letters. And you cannot get away from, if you're holding a pencil this way, you're a first, second, third grader thinking, doggone it, I am going to control this thing, this will do what I tell it to do. That is not a good place to draw. When you hold it side saddle, now what part of my anatomy is working? My whole arm, from the shoulder all the way down. Okay, the part of your brain that controls your arm is a better artist than the part of your brain that controls your fingers. Now, I have people all the time say, well, I know someone like Dave Stickle, who probably holds his brushes this way. Yep, there you go. There's an exception to every rule. Generally speaking, when I see somebody drawing this way, I go, oh, they might be good, but usually they're stuck. Usually they're hyper-realists, like Dave Stickle. And the artists that I, revere, Rembrandt, for instance, the great artists draw this way. I never saw Rembrandt draw, but anyway. You knew that. I just thought I'd throw that out there, so not quite as old as I look. All right, so maybe I'm done here. I'm done with layer number 1. Now here's where the magic starts to happen. Put this yellow down, and I'm now looking at my, you're looking at my bald head. I know, this is wonderful. I have over here a lavender and a pale green, so I'm really still in my light pile. I'm going to draw this image at least 3 times with watercolor pencils, more likely 4, and possibly 5. So I think 4 for me is probably average. Okay, so right now I'm looking for my second, and if I'm going to go with the green, I'd rather go with this one. Okay, I'm just going to say one. So I've.
All 3 going to be light?
No, we're going from light to dark. That's the key principle here. So, and by the way, the colors I'm picking, listen, have absolutely nothing to do with the subject matter. Okay? Except that perhaps they are against the subject matter, contrary. In other words, this photograph is warm. In fact, it's actually kind of sepia tone. So would I pick up yellow, orange, and brown pencils to do this painting? The answer is, and of course, if I'm doing a sepia tone painting, but otherwise, no. I'm going to pick up purple and green and red and so forth. Okay? So I'm not picking colors to match my subject matter. I'm actually picking up colors to contrast my subject matter. All right? And I just very intuitive. I'm just saying, the purple is calling to me. So now I'm going to draw it again, and I think that we'll find that the purple color is slightly darker. Yeah, it's definitely darker. Yep, right? Mm-hmm. You really can't tell, by the way. You can't tell what color these, I think, you really can't tell what color these pencils are until you start drawing with them. They're almost deceptive. When you look at the lead, don't pay any attention to the color of the, yeah.
Are you drawing exactly on top of the lines you already drew, or are you drawing beside them?
No, I'm making corrections. I'm using the yellow lines only as a gentle hint guide. I'm certainly not drawing on top. You can see I've missed every one. Okay. I'm making corrections. I'm trying to say, okay, well, the first time I did that line, like this one right here, I'm now thinking, I think it should be about 1/4 of an inch to the right. Make sense? The line at the bottom now, I'm making quite a big adjustment. All right, the magic that I want, and by the way, at some point I will switch over to my Control Freak grip, but at that point, that's for details, and at that point, is that a birdhouse, do you think, on the front of that, next to that door? I'm not sure, but it's interesting. I'm going to keep it. You know we don't have to keep everything that's in the photograph, right?
We know that.
Yeah, good, yeah, I'm sure you do.
But you're doing more detail now.
Yes, correct. A little more detail and a little more accurate. I'm trying to make corrections. So if I think the yellow line is exactly where I want it, then I trace over it. If I think I need to make a correction, then I do that. And yes, I am doing more detail than see, the yellow was just the barest lines. And then there's all this foliage, weeds or flowers or something down here. Rather dead. And if we want to, we can turn those into flowers, of course, as you know. Okay, and I don't want to get into too much detail here because I have probably 2 more drawings to go. I think one of the advantages of drawing in this manner, what manner? From light to dark. So do you see my drawing already, just the way it is right now? The yellow has virtually disappeared. I don't mean literally, I mean mentally, psychologically. When you look at this page now, and can you see it? And especially like if I squint, the yellow completely disappears. But it served its purpose. It got me started. I got out of the starting blocks with yellow. But now, really, what I'm seeing is purple. And guess what? That process is going to happen at least 2 more times. Again, sorry, forgive me, bald head in camera. I could do this, couldn't I? That'd be more aesthetically pleasing to all of you. I'm looking at, if I ever suffered any delusions about how young I look, those delusions have been thoroughly squashed under the spotlight of reality because I broadcast on YouTube every day. And I get to see myself like, who is that old guy? Of course, you guys don't think I look old because you just accept me right the way I am. Because that's right. We've all learned the secret to youth and beauty, haven't we? It's be born 40 years later. It's easy. How do I get to be beautiful? Easy. Delay your birthday 40 years. Yay! It's real simple. What the young people don't know, right?
Do you have a preferred brand of colored pencil?
Yes, whatever is on sale. No, I don't think I do. There's one here that I got in a big kit. It's called Inktense, I think. Yeah, Derwent. And I think they're good quality. But this one here is Sanford.
The difference between Derwent, Inktense, and the other ones is that the Derwent, once dry, is permanent. The other ones are not.
Oh, thank you very much. That's why I came here today, was to learn all kinds of stuff from you guys. Thank you. Really? They're permanent, not like ordinary watercolors?
Right. So you cannot lift them, but you can use a lot of other mediums over them. So.
Oh. Huh. Yeah, we don't want that.
You'll have to test it with your jar of stuff.
Yeah.
And they're very vibrant colors.
Yeah. Yeah, they are very vibrant colors. So they're called Inktense, and that makes sense. I guess that's what they're saying. Thank you.
Do you primarily use non-staining watercolors?
No. I have a separate watercolor palette that I use, that I call it my portrait watercolor palette. It has every color, maybe a little heavy on the earth tones, flesh tones, but it has no staining in it. So when I'm doing a portrait, I want to be able to lift anything out that I can. So that's all. But in the rest of my kits, I don't worry about it. Okay, I'm almost getting too much detail here, so forgive me. Let me speed up a little bit. Now, some of you are ahead of me, aren't you? You're thinking, well, wait a minute, what's going to happen when you add water to this, right? Is anybody thinking that? Yeah. And I'm doing it. Right now I've got yellow and purple. Yellow and purple makes what? Brown. That's going to look really bad. No, okay, so the part of the charm, I think, of this technique is exactly that. What happens to all these colors when you brush some water? I'm having thoughts about this tree over here. Yeah, I think I'm going to replace it with a bush instead. Is that all right?
What's your focal point?
I don't believe in focal points. That's not true. That's not true. But it is true that not every painting has to have a focal point. I learned that years ago, much to my shock and dismay, from my good friend David Dunlop, who comes to Art of the Carolinas every year. No, there are. I think it's going to be front door-ish, right here. And by the way, I do paint with two hands, but for some reason, I don't do watercolors with two hands usually. So if you want to see some of those gymnastics or pyrotechnics, you'll be disappointed. Okay, third drawing. Here's a stack of what I'm looking at. These, I still call these midtones. I like this. This is Karan Dash. Karan, how do you guys spell that? Pronounce that. Karen Dash. Karen Dash. I like that. Let's all agree. Karen Dash. The official word is. Yeah. I discovered one of the ways you can find out is go to YouTube and find the official manufacturer YouTube channel and listen to them say it. And then you get, are those the same color? Not quite. Let me look. I think I'm drawn to this wild.
Do you ever grid that off? I know the picture is about the same size as your paper, but you just visualize it in your mind, you're good enough to do it.
Yes. Do I ever grid off paintings? Yes. In fact, the last 6 months, I've done a number of large, like 6 by 8 foot oil paintings, and those I gridded off because at that scale, you can just go off the rails so easily. I don't for this. I never have that I remember. Okay, now there.
What color is that, red?
This is, I would call it fuchsia. I don't know what. They call it rouge, purple, purplish red. So, and I picked it because it looked, ooh, that looks like fun.
So we're still going slightly darker.
Yep, darker again.
Is that pencil coming out the middle two fingers of yours or the last?
Good question. So I hold this in front of you, slap your palm against it, and grab it like that. That's essentially, but then if you want more stability, I just take the back and put it through my pinky, like that. So it's real stable, and that's not a secret grip. I mean, you could hold your pencil like this would be better, you know. And I do find myself when I'm with brushes, I find myself doing all kinds of crazy things, you know. Not this. Thanks for asking. All right, I'm getting, of course, closer to final drawing. And once again, as soon as I apply this fuchsia color, I would call it, then it overwhelms the purple. So it.
Try to hit pretty much every line.
No. In fact, right now I just sort of switched gears. The purple drawing was satisfactory as far as details, construction, placement, especially. I mean, as you know, it's not a portrait. If it was a portrait, and then you have to get things right. Eyes have to be lined up, nose, mouth. You know, things get technical really fast. But if it's an old shed in somebody's backyard, are you kidding? It's supposed to be all kind of. So I'm plenty close enough to, you know, reality with the purple. So I just changed gears. I didn't even say anything about it till now. Now I'm a little bit more interested in expressive line, artistic line, than I am accuracy per se. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Forgive us for interrupting. Hi, everybody. Emma and Hayden Miller. I just want you to see the resemblance.
Hi, Joe. I'm Dan. We met 100 years ago.
Yeah,
Good to see you again.
Good to have you here.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
We just wanted to slip in
I'm
and say
glad you
hello to
did.
everybody. And I know you're having a great time. Yeah.
Yeah,
too.
and you look just like her.
Oh,
It's-
thank
it's-
you.
yeah. We just talked about that. We know the secret to beauty is to be born 50 years later.
Right. Yeah. Well, we'll go. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
They live in Matthews.
We live in Charlotte, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
She's going to Carolina in about a week.
Oh,
Chapel Hill.
we'll pray for you.
Following,
I go to Weddington.
yeah,
high
he's
school.
in high school.
Well,
I'm
cool.
shorter, but I'm older.
Don't get it confused.
What high school and wedding?
To Weddington High School.
Okay.
That's, yeah.
It's like the Matthews area, so east of Charlotte.
We have a
Yeah.
grandson in Cuthbertson, so.
Oh, yeah, that's, yeah, we know where that is.
Look
Yeah.
into Appalachian when you start looking.
That's right. That's right. UNC, okay.
We're going to, he gets us to go to Harvard.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I went to Harvard one time.
Me too.
Yeah.
And Yale both.
Okay. I did all of this because I'm going to be teaching at Oxford. Yeah, North Carolina. We better go.
I am going to use that. That's a good line. I'm going to use that line. Where they have the state hospital, of course. Perfect, yes. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Is that good? Am I back on the screen? Thank you. Oh, okay. You don't need the reference anymore. Good idea.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, good. Now I just have to lean over a little bit more, and that's all right.
So you're using that shade for what's in other words, what are you thinking about when you think what lines I'll draw, what lines I won't draw?
Yeah. Good question. And again, I'm using this shade not because it has anything to do with the picture. In fact, I picked this color because it's rather shocking. It's rather bold. I can't wait to see what happens when it gets wet. Yeah, by the way, this technique is a surprise. This is not for the faint of heart. This is for people that want to have fun. Yeah, it is. That's right. Exactly. That fits well within the watercolor milieu wheelhouse. That the best watercolors are all surprises, in my opinion.
Now, you're using more pressure and making wider lines with that one, aren't you?
Maybe not on purpose, honestly, but I might be doing that. Yeah, I think it is just the color. All right, and yes, I can answer your question too about what now. I'm going to do one more drawing. I think probably if I were doing this at home by myself, I would probably stop at this point. But I don't mind doing a little bit more. Thank you. Somebody just reminded us to turn off our phones. First person. Oh, that was he's EMS, so he has to answer his phone. I have here purple, dark green. Pardon?
What weight paper?
I decided since I'm in front of a whole bunch of watercolors, I'm using 300 pound. Oh, I never use anything but 300 pound. This is all just I leftover scraps of things from here and there, and some of this is actually 140 pound hot press. You understand, I had a watercolor master 30 years ago in Raleigh. This is one of those dumb things. Again, you guys probably all know it. But if you want lots of texture in your watercolor, use hot press. It's the opposite of what you think. Good 300 pound cold press is watercolor paper. It's made to take the watercolor and go, whoo. Now you get the little tiny knobby texture, but your brush strokes get evened out. If you want your brush strokes to retain energy, edges, use hot press. It's the opposite of what most of us think. So, 300 pound is actually the easiest. It's kinder. So that's why I wimped out in front of you here and said, oh, I'll use the easy one. Thank you very much. All right, I don't want to use purple because that's too close to the fuchsia. Oh, and by the way, just for what it's worth, I pulled out almost all my browns and all my like grays or anything, gray or black. Blech. Those are color killers. The whole point, not the whole point, a major element of this is I want pop. I want to see what happens when water hits these colors. Okay? All right, so I have here something. It says deep indigo. Let me draw with it and see what happens. Now, of course, I still don't know what color this is going to be when the water hits it. Are you with me? Well, it says deep indigo. Yeah, I know what indigo is, but yeah. Thank you, though. But this I don't want that. I want green. So this is another company, Ticonderoga, Corlon. Wait a minute. Let me make sure this is actually watercolor. It's not. This is just a colored pencil. How did that get in here? That would not be good.
Now what happens if you do use one like you did and you change to another? It's not going to make that much difference.
No. Yeah, right. I'm doing that right midstream. Oh, here's a nice one. It is ink tint, so it's that thing that's not, it's called green aquamarine. Now I'm picking colors because I want contrast from what's already there.
Do you
So,
have a favorite brand of watercolor pencils?
yeah, whatever's on sale, I said. Yeah, so no, I really don't. Now, okay, some of you are just getting settled down to get good and bored. You think, good grief, he's not going to draw that whole thing again, is he? And the answer is no, that's good news, I'm not. Now, this is one of my favorite mistakes, is to just put my head down and just bore on ahead. Like, okay, I have to draw it all one more time, and turn off my brain and draw. Turn off part of my brain and just draw. So I'm going to try not to make that mistake in front of you. In fact, I'm not going to. I am only going to draw part of this drawing in this green color. Why? I'm going to begin zeroing in on focal point. And once again, the marks I'm making now are actually getting considerably more abstract, expressive, loose, messy, all those words. Because the drawing's already done. I don't need to draw it again. So really what I'm doing now is more just expressive texture, and I'm aware of where on the page I'm putting these marks. All right, I could talk all day about, if you by any chance subscribe to my YouTube channel, you'll hear me all the time. The essence of good drawing and the essence of good painting is making interesting marks. There are artists out there that are better than I am. It puts fire in my bones. When I look at Richard Schmid or whatever, what is it that, well, there's several things. What is the essential thing that he does better than me? His marks are better than my marks. That's the essence. Sine qua non, bottom line, that's what's better. And we could talk about what are interesting marks. Since I'm on that subject, just for fun. Let's say we have to draw, okay, let's say we have to draw a telephone pole. Here's one way to draw a telephone pole. And there's lines going to it. Okay. Done. Not very attractive, not very interesting. This is a lot more interesting. Now, which one is a better telephone pole? Do you see the difference? Let me. They both look like Charlie Brown's Christmas tree with balls on it. Human beings cannot draw straight lines because you're alive. And I like to say, don't worry, someday you will flatline, and you'll draw a straight line forever. In the meantime, the fact that you can't draw a straight line proves that you're alive. Now, I'm sure somewhere in the world today, there's a world competition, Guinness Book of World Records, for who can draw the straightest line. Okay, yeah, whatever. But no. Practically speaking, human beings, you as an artist, can't draw straight lines because you have a heart and a pulse and so on. So the only kind of line we can draw is crooked. But we can draw two kinds of crooked lines. Ugly, or as I like to say, hugly, that means really ugly. Ugly crooked lines or attractive crooked lines, right? Now, I can describe the former real easy. How to draw an ugly crooked line. It's real easy. Here's a recipe. Remember, you can't draw a straight one if you're alive without a ruler or a computer. All you can draw is crooked ones, ugly or pretty, nice. Here's a recipe for ugly. Try to draw a straight line. It's not straight, it's crooked, and it's ugly crooked. Because the viewer gets the impression that you tried to draw a straight line and failed, and it's awkward feeling. That's exactly what this first telephone pole is. It looks like I tried to draw a straight line and failed. It's just not pleasant. This one is like crooked up the wazoo, whatever the wazoo is. It's just really, really crooked, but it's attractive. It gives the impression of a straight line, sort of. It gives the impression of a tall, skinny thing. All right, so does that make sense of some of the marks that I'm making here? That's exactly what I'm doing here. And it's funny, in my oil painting, I certainly use the same kind of touch. People will come up to me on the street. Most of my painting is done on the street because I paint cityscapes more than anything else. And they'll look at when I'm nearly finished and they'll say, oh, did you do all that freehand? And it's so funny because there's not one straight line in the whole thing, I promise. But it gives the impression of straight lines. So much so that an uneducated, passerby says, did you do all that freehand? I've got all these tall buildings, stuff like that. All right, I am done with pencils. Woohoo! So, did you catch that? Light, darker, darker, darker. With each subsequent layer of darkness, the earlier color disappears. So here we're seeing mostly the dark green and some of the fuchsia. You can only see the yellow if you really look for it. What was my second color? Yeah, lavender. That's right. Yeah, and I can hardly even see that. All right. Now at this point, and by the way, this masking tape around, that's just my habit. Just, if you'll see almost all my finished pieces up here are done that way. That's not anything, that's just my idiosyncratic habit. I just like it. I like peeling it off and seeing that crisp edge. By no means superior to any other method. All right, at this point we have a couple options. One is to go straight to ink. So I'll introduce ink to you. Not that you don't know ink, but let me give you my 2 cents worth, okay? This is a basket full of ink pens and pencils. This kind of thing, which I think if you read the supply list, what should I bring to this class? There's at least one more brand here. There's 4. Usually I have also a plain old-fashioned Sharpie marker, and that's not here right at the moment. All right, so these are wonderful. How many of you use these kind of things? The felt tip pens. They're wonderful and they're terrible. I was waiting for one of you to say it. That's right. What's terrible about them? They dry out. Yeah, they don't last. They last like about 45 minutes. Probably not even 45 minutes. I'm thinking if you just sat down and drew with them for nonstop.
You have to have a couple.
Oh, they do. And they get clogged and the little felt point gets bent. So they're wonderful for what they're wonderful for, which is convenience and portability. So if you're going out to sketch in the mountains and you just want to stick something in your back pocket, this is the way to go. But you better stick 2 of them in your back pocket because sure enough, you get out there, one's going to give out on you. So there you go. And the other thing is, of course, they say they're waterproof. Anybody discovered this? But oh my goodness, you had better do a test. Because waterproof in some countries evidently doesn't mean the same thing that it means in my country. So this one says waterproof, this one does not. This one does, and this one does. So these three, just let's do something right here just for fun. These three all say they're waterproof. The middle one is hardly drawing.
We can't see you.
Okay, yeah, hang on. And the middle line, par for the course. Here, let me pick up a different one. Oh.
It didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work, of course. Okay, so in order, that was, I think, brown, black. All right, I'm going to pick up a brush, dip it in water, and let's run across that. And oh my goodness, you see that middle one? That's not waterproof. The top one's not, and the bottom, it's not doing too bad. But all right, so just for what it's worth, that's all I'm going to say about those markers.
We want waterproof for this
Yes,
purpose.
yes, you certainly want waterproof. All right, and then there is the plain old-fashioned workhorse dip pen, right? And you dip it in ink. The advantage of this is it works as long as you have a bottle of ink around, right? And it makes a nice expressive line, and they're cheap and so on. And you can also get the little crow quill, which is like this. Are you with me? Yes. Okay, what's the downside of this?
It has to be waterproof.
It does have to be waterproof ink, correct. The dip, yeah, yes, exactly. We can do like this. We can do like the Declaration of Independence. Why did they put those back blobs there? All right, so that's the downside. And then a compromise to that is what I'm going to use here this morning is a fountain pen. And I just saw another fountain pen in here. For what it's worth, I've done a fair amount of experimentation with fountain pens. Now, fountain pen, what that means is usually it's got a reservoir in it, right? And I don't know if Joe sells these or not. This is the name of this is the cleverly named Pen and Ink Sketch. Their marketing department was on vacation that week. So their catalog printer said, "Oh, well, call it Pen and Ink Sketch." Anyway, for what it's worth, it's an inexpensive pen, which is nice because it seems to work quite well. And I've ordered $100 pens and ruined them, and so on and so forth. All right, now, and ironically, or for what it's worth, this, can you read that? This is the same company. It is. It says, Pen and Ink Sketch, non-shellac. No, it does say non-shellac. That's a key thing, because the shellac is what dries in your pen, dries and ruins the nib, is the shellac. So this stuff, it's sold by Jerry's. It's pretty cheap and better than lots of the $100, $150 pens that I've tried. So that's just for what it's worth, okay? And that's what I'm going to use. So what's the advantage? One of the advantages of this kind of pen, of course, is that you get a creative line. You can do thick and thin, basically. Oh, there we go. Oh yeah, I'm zoomed. Okay, there you go. All right, so you can do, you get a nice creative line that you don't get with the felt tip. You can get with the dip pen, but it's a lot more dangerous. So, all right, fair enough. Back to the drawing, and let me zoom out. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah. Oh, do you want to see that up close just for a second?
Yeah. Nice.
Okay.
Very good. That's informative.
Yeah, good. Okay, good. All right. Oh, here we go. This is really good. I get comments on this all the time on my videos. I have a lot of videos where I'm doing pen and ink stuff, and they say, "Did you burn your hand? Or are you doing that to protect your hand? Are you doing that to protect your hand from those dangerous and scary inks?" No, of course not. It's to protect the paper, right? You're honest. Does any of you watercolor people do this? This is like a Dollar Tree or something. I mean, like Walmart cheap bag of 30 gloves that I cut the fingers off, all but the pinky, because that's what rests on the paper. Okay, so that if you don't know that trick, watercolorists, you'd be well advised, because this is for not when you're doing loose and free and fast watercolors, which sort of I'm doing today, but anytime you're going to have your hand resting on the paper, if you're doing details, this is a good idea.
Is that a plastic?
No, it's cotton.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry. Just cotton, and I think medical in Walmart, like at the pharmacy area. I'm not sure, and I know I've got them at like a Dollar Tree, Dollar Zone place. Yeah.
It could be like
Online though, you can get them disposable cotton gloves online, and it's $5 for 30 or something like that. They're really cheap. That is a trick worth knowing.
On one of your videos, you talked about liquid gloves.
Yes, because they made me talk about it.
Oh.
The producers of the videos, and I thought it was a great idea, and then came back later and they said they discovered that it didn't really work, so they stopped
Okay.
pushing. Jerry stopped. Good for them. Stopped pushing the product, but it makes me look like an idiot in the meantime.
Can you hold your hand up one more time? Thank you.
Right. All right. Now, at this point, most non-artists and maybe a lot of artists would think that I'm going to draw and talk at the same time. I think most people would think, and again, by the way, do you see that I'm still holding the pen in this weird way, because as soon as I switch over to the death control grip, I'm in a different part of my brain, and I'm not in a hurry to get there. I will when I need to, but I'm just not in a hurry to get there. All right, most people, I think, would assume that if you're doing pen and ink, so we're doing pen and ink and watercolor today, okay, so this pen and ink sketch, because part of my objective in doing this technique is speed. I just want to whack this thing out quickly. Anyway, most people, I think, would assume that you do all the drawing first. You do the ink first, and then you color it, partly like a coloring book. Lines first, color second. Well, guess what? Nope. I'm doing a little bit right now, just sort of almost to make the point, and I'm going to quit very shortly. So then the next question is, so you do paint first and then the ink? And the answer is, well, not exactly. The answer is I go back and forth and back and forth. So that's how, if I could shake you up and say, no, don't get stuck in any way, go back and forth. Now, one thing I have not done, you could say, well, have you ever done more colored pencil after you do the watercolor? And I go, oh, I'm not sure that I have. Not very much. So there you go, something for you all to play with. What happens if you go into, I do know, because I have done, do you know if you have a wet paper and you do watercolor pencil on it, what happens? It's real intense, real. I mean, it's just, so generally speaking, I avoid it, but it's still an experiment. That technique may fit your style and personality and hand and so forth. So if you have a personality, then that's obviously what I just meant. but fortunately, nobody knows what that means. So.
Are you using pen there because to emphasize your focal point?
Yes, I am. And I'm about to quit here in just a minute, because I've just said to you, what do I do first, pen or paint? The answer is both. Yes, correct. The answer is both. Back and forth and back and forth. All right, so I'm going to stop there. And yahoo, here is the fun part. Woohoo! That moment we've all been waiting for, especially me. Before I start using paints, then let me point out this. Somebody, what's this guy's name? This was my watercolor tray. Has been my watercolor tray since 1972. Think about it. And I was in college in 1972. It's followed me everywhere. So I finally decided, by golly, I'm old enough to retire. I I need a bigger watercolor palette. So I went shopping at Jerry's and got this Paul McCormick. Now, ironically, this does not have as many cubby holes in it as this does. It looks like it does, but it doesn't. I tend to be an obsessive, compulsive, orderly, neat kind of personality. You don't have to be. Many artists are messies. I tend to be a neaty. That means my colors are always in my acrylics, my oils, they're always in the same order. I always start with the purple in the lower left-hand corner and go around the color wheel and then do browns, light to dark. Just for what it's worth. And again, you can be a perfectly fabulous artist without being neat, but that's me. So this is my paint at home, you know, mother of all palettes. This is my large travel one. This is my small travel one. Again, nothing. This is my small watercolor kit, and I use that a lot, probably more than anything else, but with this tray. All right, and if I'm showing you anything, I mean, you're all watercolor, so you don't need me to show you that. But sometimes it's fun to see how other people do things. I also tend to be my life works better if I have separate kits. So I have a little kit that I can just grab and go out the door, or it's already in the car or something, and I don't have to remember, like, oh no, I don't go running around for watercolor pencils and then brushes and then pens. No, I have a small kit that has all of that already in it, and then a bigger kit that has more stuff in it, and so on. So that's just the way my brain works. And I sure can, if you want. Let me move it over a little bit.
Okay. Got about 30 minutes left.
Oh. Okay, good, thank you. Thank you for telling me that. Sometimes I'll spray, and that's what I'm going to do today. Let me make sure it's spraying right. Yep. To just go ahead and start activating that stuff. Woohoo! Isn't that fun? And here's a nice brush. I'm trying to decide what kind of color. I'm actually going to go with a brownish, since I've got so much color already happening on the paper, on the illustration, the painting itself. I'm going to go opposite, so to speak. Sorry, I'm having a hard time getting enough water here. All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
And you all are saying, that's what I was going to do.
Are you making choices, or do you just?
I am. I'm making, good question. I am making choices. Big ones. Is that was a 3-inch? Yep.
And this is why you like this palette, because you can make wash petals easier. And
Yes.
puddles.
Yeah.
You can't do that on a palette.
Yeah. That's a good word, puddles.
What's the name of that palette?
McCormick, Paul McCormick, and he's a portrait guy, right? Yeah, he's at Art of the Carolinas every year. He's a regular. So now as you can see, I'm just lifting up. Okay, now if I'm going to have any trouble with my schedule, having gone as slow as I've gone, it's going to be getting stuff dry. Because
this has to be dry before I can proceed. So forgive me for just a minute.
You sprayed the whole thing with water first.
I did, yeah, yeah. So does that look fun? And I love the way all the colors behave in different ways.
How did you decide where you were gonna brush?
Dark side of the house, shadow on the roof, dark around the. I was following the illustration, just not so anybody can tell. How many of you would say, I am tight and I'd like to get looser? Okay. The rest of you are just lying. No, there is about, in a crowd this size, there might be one. But that's about, I've known 2 artists in my life who came out of the chute loose. 2 of thousands of artists, I know 2. Everybody else is like me. I'm too tight, I'd like to get loose. And so I just showed you, for what it's worth, a little bit about getting loose. You know, put those doggone little brushes down and use yourself a 3-inch brush. I do paint with 2 hands, and part of the reason for painting with 2 hands is so that I am loose, right? Here's Dan Nelson's 4 steps for getting loose. Big brush, wrong hand, take off your glasses and turn off the lights. And then everybody says, I don't want to be that loose. There you go. There's the problem. You don't really know why you want to be loose. You just know, anyway. Okay, I think that's dry enough. So now back to ink, and I can just draw whatever I want. I don't have to draw anywhere, and I'm not sure that this is perfectly dry. I would be happier if I could have taken more time to make sure it's really dry, but it's going to be close enough, and nobody will die. We'll be okay if this ink bleeds just a little bit. The essence of good drawing is making what? Remember? Interesting marks. Yeah. And especially in a case like this, where I'm not, at this point, I'm really not drawing so as to capture reality. I'm not focused on similitude. I'm not focused on details or accuracy. That's all done. I mean, the drawing is way close enough to accurate. So everything I'm doing now, or almost everything, is really just texture. What looks good? What's going to look good? Sometimes I do a little bit of cross-hatching or shading with the pen. I think, so that's, in a sense, perfectly legal. I know you're glad to know it's legal. The pen and ink police will not show up at your door. But I think generally speaking, oh, that says flowers. Isn't that cute? It's probably a little too small, but I'm going to scratch something in there anyway. As if it says something on that box. And there are no flowers in that box, which seems a little bit of a shame. So I'm going to add just a little bit. All right, while I'm drawing, how much time do I have? Yagsa. Let's talk about white. So as I mentioned at the beginning here, this is a poor man's watercolor, watercolor for dummies, watercolor for idiots. Is that the name of it? Idiot's Guide, that's right. You know, this is easy. Also, it's fast. In fact,
a couple times on my YouTube channel, I've done some side-by-side comparisons where I will do a watercolor, traditional, real watercolor, graphite drawing only, preserving my whites, or lifting out or scratching out or whatever, all the traditional approaches, doing a drawing that way, and then doing a similar drawing, usually not exactly the same subject matter. I don't want to draw the same picture twice, but using this technique. And this, for me, is markedly faster, I think by a ratio of 3 to 1. For me, this is roughly 3 times faster than doing what I would call a bona fide or real watercolor painting. So that's part of the reason why I've gravitated to this. And even though I can do watercolors, and if the occasion calls for it, will indeed do so, but left to my own devices more than not. Like if I'm doing a watercolor painting, wedding paintings is a big part of my business. Most of those are oils, but every once in a while a client asks for a watercolor wedding painting, and because of the need for speed, I think I might have, anyway, most of the time I'll do what I call a watercolor sketch. So I feel like if I put the word sketch behind it, that covers a multitude of sins and lets me get away with whatever I want to get away with, because it's not a real watercolor, it's just a sketch. Is that fair enough, do you think? It's usually a good thing to be in a hurry, because being in a hurry, how many people does it take to do a painting? Do you know the answer to that? 2. 1 to paint, 1 to shoot them. Because left to our own devices, what? Almost all of us will take everything, we'll overwork everything, we'll take it too far. All right, so there's ink. Now I'm going to, am I still on the picture? Okay. Now I'm going to go to a tiny little brush. I'm being funny. But definitely a smaller brush. And I'm actually going to get my little palette up here just because it's a little bit easier at the moment. You don't need to see the reference anymore, do you? Or the palette anymore, do you? All right. So now I'm doing darker. So at the moment, I'm behaving quite a bit like a traditional watercolor painter. I started light and then getting darker, and that trajectory would continue on and on for several more layers. I won't take several more layers today, but if I could, if I wanted to. Does that make sense? Doing a watercolor sketch does not preclude. In fact, I got some of these things out. This is kind of, I would call it even Uncle Joe kind of watercolor tricks, right? Yeah, I just sprayed it with a green and then an orange. Again, the easy part of this is, guess what? Don't tell any real watercolors. We're going to come back with white, which just, right? It gets us completely kicked out of the club, good boy club. They will take your badge, your secret decoder ring, break your brushes, and send you out into the wilderness.
So what color is that watercolor?
I have no idea. I just, it's a whole bunch of stuff. Purple, Payne's gray, brown, blue. Palette smoosh, yeah. Ooh, that orange spray, that turned out really nice. Bob Ross's best line was "Happy little accidents," wasn't it? That was a people. I paint on the streets. I hear Bob Ross's name like 3 times every day. And sometimes, if I'm being real good, if I'm in my good self, I just smile and nod. If I'm not being good, they'll say, "Ooh, like Bob Ross," and I say, "In his dreams." Was he a good painter? Maybe. We don't know. He never did any on TV. But I loved his show like everybody else. Didn't you? That's great to watch. It's great. And everybody should know all those tricks, by the way. Even watercolor painters. You should know all the Bob Ross tricks. Just don't use them like he did. Use them with great discretion. Let me see. Let me come up with another.
It's tough when you're an art teacher and all your students think Bob Ross.
is the ultimate.
Because dissing him doesn't work.
The what?
Dissing him doesn't
No, dissing him doesn't. And I mean, good grief. I think most people loved his show and should have loved it. It was great fun, great entertainment, and frankly, that's as much art as some people are ever going to know. So bless their hearts.
He's an entertainer.
Yep.
I'm never going to call my stuff a quick sketch pen ever.
He was so gentle.
He was. Yeah.
How it makes you feel. It's
Yeah.
what he does.
And yeah, exactly. It does irritate me a little bit that there's some people out there now. One in particular, there's one guy on YouTube who has hundreds of thousands of viewers. So of course, I'm envious. So this is all sour grapes. Please understand that. But he's a young man, and he completely copies Bob Ross. I mean, his studio set up the same way. He actually does paintings better than Bob Ross, but he uses Bob Ross' tone of voice. It just drives me crazy. But evidently, that a lot of people just want it. Because that's okay. A big brush.
Bob Ross's.
Yeah. I'm gonna just darken up this area down here. Little more shadow on the door. All right, let's dry that real quickly, and then I come back and do white. Don't bother picking it up, please. Somebody under 40 pick that up, would you?
Hopefully it didn't.
Oh, Lydia did it. Okay, I'm going to short change this process just a little bit. If I were doing this at home, I would do a little more painting and a little more ink. And if I can do that, during the break, I will. But we're going to go straight to white, because that's a part some of you really want to see and need to see. Now, the essence of painting or drawing is making interesting marks. Check? That's the verb to paint. The essence of doing the act of painting is making interesting marks. Now switching the word to a noun. The most important aspect of a painting, anybody want to take a guess? What am I going to say? Yeah, well, no, I'm going to, that it looks like it was done, is play of light. Light, okay? So I'm not sure that, this is passably, it's passable. I'm certainly not claiming that it's a masterpiece in that regard. All right, white stuff. Let me show you some of the real serious. If you're going to use white on your watercolor, then for goodness sake, at least buy a bottle of real watercolor white. By the way, my favorite watercolors in the world is Alvaro Castanet. you know, Uruguay, one of the best in the world, and he uses white. Alvaro Castanet. Castanet, from South America. Whoops, I just spattered white paint on my painting. Do I have it on my face? Yeah, I like it too, exactly. So it's going to stay there. This is a bottle of, I don't know what, art, and it's probably a mixture that I've made up over the years, but it started out as craft white, like AC Moore craft paint, perfectly legal acrylic. Go for it. Of course, I have white gouache, and this is a little tube of acrylic gesso. So there you go, and it gets just worse from there. This is a correction pen, Presto. Not an art supply product at all, but you know, Staples, Office Max, and along those lines, this is some kind of pen, Uniball Signo, white. So all of these are legal in my book. I'm going to start out with the easy one. Now, if I want to be a little bit more artsy, then you see I'll use my gouache. They won't let me into Oil Painters of America, but they might let me set up across the street if I use gouache. If I use a whiteout pen, they won't let me even in their time zone. Okay, so that's what we're going to use here. Oh, and by the way, I've discovered, here's a funny thing. I don't know if you guys know this. You probably do. If you're a flatlander like me and you come down from lower elevation and I come up and open something like this, in this elevation, it goes, it's going all over the place. Oh boy. It is whiteout. It's like office supply, secretary. And you can smear it with your finger. Then you look like an artist for the rest of the day. If you look at my, it'll be interesting to see if you can tell the difference in my samples that I brought here this morning that are for sale, really cheap. If you can tell the ones that were done with whiteout pen versus the ones that were done with gouache or something more legitimate.
Do any of your whites that you're using to do this, do any of them pick up color?
Yeah, oh yeah, certainly. The water-based ones will all pick up color if you rub it around a little bit. I just don't rub it around. I slap it down and leave it. So I've never had that problem, but that's a good point. It certainly could pick up color. And I'm going to show you one more trick before we finish here. So as you know, this is supposed to be, this whiteout pen is supposed to be fast dry, right? That's the idea. If you're a secretary and you're making a correction. Do you remember those days? It's kind of funny. It's like an antique product. A typewriter? What's a typewriter? So they didn't know they were developing this for artists. 40 years from now, people will be using this stuff for their paintings. And by the way, this is the best. Whiteout pen.
What is it? What's the brand?
Pentel. It's the shape. The ones that are shaped like pens that are long, you have to squeeze them.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable. So this is, in my opinion. Okay, how many minutes do I have left?
10.
Okay. Okay, so are we still there? Okay, so again, I don't know if you've been seeing me blend this with my finger or not, but, and I'm sure I wouldn't want to use a brush. Well, maybe you could use one of your, cast-off brushes, but that's not bad, right there. You just have a dirty finger till the next time you can scrape off your skin to get it off your skin.
Can you paint over the white?
Yes, that's what I'm going to show you. That's what I'm going to show you next. The answer is no and yes. The answer is no, you can't easily, but yes, you can if you take some steps. And the steps are real simple, and it's a part of my normal, here it is. Okay, so this is it. You might know what this is? A piece of soap. Okay. So there you go. That soap is my secret for doing color on top of the whiteout. Okay, so what do you think of the drawing so far? It'll do in a pinch, right? Considering how long it took, how quick it was, and I find that really the pencil, I said I wasn't going to do any more ink, but I am just a little bit. I find that the various colors of pencil, the yellow, which by the way has shown up to a rather surprising degree. It was very pale when we covered over it with other colors. Do you follow my get? But it's made its presence quite known here after we added water, which I love. I think it's just, I find that that's a very fetching effect, that these four colors, same four colors, are bleeding up throughout the entire painting. Now, okay, just a minute. We're almost going to go to white. I mean to color on top of the. But there, sometimes after you do it, you might say, yeah, well, I like everything except I don't like this fuchsia-ish line down here. Bear with me just for a minute. I have here somewhere. There we go. I have a bristle brush, hog bristle brush. So you just scrub it out of the way, and there it is. So that line is gone. And of course, you can do that. You can use this as a lifting tool, just like traditional watercolor, all over the place. But does that make sense? So if you end up with some lines, like I'm not crazy about this blue-green line through the top of that fence right there. In fact, I think it'd be nice to have a little bit of a glow hitting the top of that fence. That's kind of nice. You with me? Mm-hmm. All right, finally then, my piece of soap. All I need to do is get a little bit of soap on my brush, dip into any color whatsoever. And so I just dipped into a yellow ochre. And now I can come in and warm up all this white. Again, to taste. Say that again?
What did you do with the soap?
I just rubbed my brush on it. Because the watercolor will not adhere to the whiteout pen. Now, if I had used gouache, for instance, white gouache, now you can see where this is going. Well, then don't use white gouache. Well, why don't we just get our whole gouache kit out? Well, you can do that if you want to, but there's something about the immediacy. Yeah, you know what I mean? The more you overwork something, this has some kind of, like as I said, it ain't official. It won't get into anything. But who the heck cares if that's not what you're trying to do? If you're not trying to get into Watercolor Society of America, I could call that a finished painting, right? Thank you. All right, and I'm going to be here till whenever, and I'm glad to answer questions. Yes?
If you, like, sometimes they'll take a watercolor painting, like Tom Lynch will do that, where they'll finish it with a spray, so you don't need to put glass over it.
Yes.
What would you use for this sort of thing? Because some's water-based, some is...
Yeah, no, yeah, the same kind of spray would be just fine.
And it won't...
Yeah, And
What kind of spray is that?
that's a good question. Acrylic spray, actually a workable fixative is not a bad start. So I find taking the masking tape off is kind of like Christmas. It's like, oh, let's go. It looks so nice. There. Isn't that sweet? Now you understand. I could continue to fiddle with ink, with watercolor, lifting out, all the traditional watercolor stuff. More whiteout, different whiteout. Here's this whiteout pen. Yeah, that's right. Exactly. I'm more in danger of messing it up than I am improving it, aren't I? Yep. Yahoo! Thank you, y'all. Thank you.
for the workshop correctly, but I think there's 3 spots left. If anybody's still interested in joining the workshop, there's 3 spots.
Thank you.
What's the name of this group? Highlands, High Country,
Water Media Society.
or H,
Yeah.
High Country, HCWS demo.
I gotta tell you, this excited me so much to see this because I just discovered these and it was a complete accident. I had someone I worked with who left and went to another community college.
Uh-huh.
And in his office was one of these, but it was a really old one that was round, you know, and tall like a pin.
Right.
And I took it because I thought, oh, that'll be great with my watercolors, you know. And then I fell in love with it. And like you said, it's the best one because those big and other ones, they clog and you can't
yeah.
get anything out of
Yeah.
them. So I bought these, and when I saw these, I was like, this is incredible.
Isn't that funny?
I use them a lot in my paintings. So,
And put that one in that bin.
Very nice.
Thank you.